Welcome to the Media Nerds Podcast. I'm Dan Vadebonker.
And I'm Kenton Larson.
And Kenton, our students are finishing up their podcasts for my assignment. They're going to be handing them in next week. We've got some really interesting ideas here for concepts.
Will you be editing together a supercut to put on to run on Media Nerd?
Should I do that? They would love that.
Like, how many are there?
It's about 7 or 8 podcasts per class because they're in groups of 2 or 3.
That's doable.
So, and I'm only asked. So, what I've asked them to do is I've asked them to create an audiogram of their podcast. So they have to create podcast artwork. So a square, that would be their podcast artwork, and then take a clip, like a 30-second-ish clip, and create an audiogram, which just shows the waveform kind of moving over the image, and that's it. Basic.
What program do you use to create the audio?
I use a program or a website called Auphonic, which is here. This is the issue: is that I have used this for a number of years, and it's been like when I signed up for it, it was very easy and straightforward, and I get this like everything works for me. But when I try and get students to sign up for it, and they sign up, it automatically adds like an ad to it or some kind of music or something to it. It's like a watermark that it won't let them do it until they sign up for. It's like this invasive sales techniques to get people to pay for the service. And meanwhile, I've been using it as a free service forever. It's Auphonic, but there's a number of different things you can use to make audiograms. I find them all pretty complicated, and Auphonic was the one that I found worked the best. But anyway, next semester or next class rather, I'm going to be playing clips from the podcast and sharing them with the class.
So that would actually be fun. So if you did 1 minute from each podcast or something, is that what you playing?
Yeah, it's like 30 seconds-ish from each. There's a funny clip, something funny from the podcast. I played an example in class this week of you talking about that Jaguar ad from our last episode. By the way, now I did something a little different with that. I put that audio underneath the actual video of the ad. I took the ad, I downloaded it, put your voice underneath it, criticizing it. And that video is actually doing pretty well on TikTok.
How's it doing?
It's got like 1,000 views.
That's all right.
More than I usually get for those. So it's not bad.
I noticed that views are down today because it's American Thanksgiving.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing that happens.
Get your face out of your turkey and back onto the phone where it belongs.
Well, and it's funny because Rhett and Link, I watch Rhett and Link every morning, Good Mythical Morning. And today they make an effort of not trying, because they stayed in bed, like they shot the whole thing. They were sitting in bed because apparently they say this on the show, their numbers were way down on Thanksgiving, and nothing they can do can make them go up because people are not on their phones. You're right. People do not look at the internet on Thanksgiving. They talk to each other in real life. So they're kind of going through the effort of putting in no effort in the show. And it was actually kind of boring. I didn't watch all of it this morning because I get the joke, but it was not fun to watch. Anyway. Okay, let's talk about, what are we talking about today? Advertising?
We can do that. We can talk about advertising. Last night I went to see the Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity at the Winnipeg Art Gallery, as I do every year. And the first thing that the woman there I'm sorry, I don't know her name, from the Ad Association of Winnipeg gets up there and she goes, "Who says Cannes Lions and who says Cannes Lions?" And people put up their hands. And she goes, "Well, I'm going to say Cannes Lions." And then she continued. And that's, I think, the right way to pronounce it.
I thought it was Lyon, as in like a French way of saying lion.
Cannes
Lyon.
Well, okay, so here's the other thing. On the Adweek podcast, they say Cannes Lions as well.
Well, I think you can mispronounce Cannes all you want. It's the name of a town in France.
Cannes.
Some people say Cannes. Yeah, like even I have the Cannes Film Festival. I see it all the time.
But that's like, did you go see Les Miserables?
Exactly.
Like that just starts to be embarrassing. But then again, we do have a campus called Notre Dame Campus.
Yes, and La Jamodière Boulevard.
Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Well. So I guess they each their
anglicized name. But anyway, you went to see the awards, and so what do they just screen all the best ads of the world?
Well, the award-winning ads in the categories of film craft, and that's media production.
Right.
And then Film Lions, and that is overall success of the ad.
Okay.
And a couple things about this year. So it was about 108 minutes, it says, running time. And I think that was right. But when you look and you do the math, that like averages out at about 2 minutes an ad. So you go, well, these aren't necessarily 30-second spots. And some of them are, but there's other ones that ran actually a little bit longer. And so there's more content marketing than ever. Like Apple buys their way into this. Like, of course it's beautiful. Of course it's good. Like it better be for the $1 billion
No
that they
kidding.
spend.
Shooting that on a super expensive camera, but they don't make 30-second ads because they're making them for YouTube. They're making the advertisements as YouTube videos. They want them to go viral on YouTube first of all,
Or web content.
or as web content, and then as an advertisement second. So they're not going to be running this 2 minutes, and it just kind of shows the nature of advertising is changing. So the 30-second ad is not the standard anymore, right? That's changing quite a bit, and I've noticed so often the biggest the one that's I'm noticing lately is the new Skip the Dishes campaign with Mr. John Hamm again.
Yeah,
Back
and he's
another one.
still funny.
Still funny, but there's a couple different versions of the ad. The one where they're he's doing the dinner reservations. There's a longer version in which they say, "Oh, it's John Hamm. John Hamm, can you get us in?" Like it's like he's a Hollywood star, so he can get you into the restaurant. And the joke is, no, he can't. But you could have skipped all this, right? You could have got
Right.
skip the dishes. But that joke is cut out in the shorter version. In the
That's a good joke.
it is, but it's like because they have to make a 15-second version and a
Mhm.
6-second version. They have to do all these different versions of the ad, and it's not as funny. And then the one that I've seen, I'm sure they have longer versions of each of these scenarios. Like there's the one where he's in the back of the car. There's another one where he's like getting a delivery at home. So I'm sure they have they've all these. Each one of these is a scene that is like an ad in itself. And it's just all these different types of content that they repurpose in all these different places, right? And that's what advertising is these days.
That's right. It's interesting. One of the things as a result of that is there's certain ones in class. I call it the OIC moment, where you realize you're watching an ad, and you want to minimize that if you work in advertising. Like you don't want to go, like Clorox percent, whatever, and everyone's like, it's an ad, and skip it. So you want to show the content and then tip your hat to it being an ad, and that happens so many times on yesterday's reel that you're watching, you've become kind of engaged with this thing. You're like, oh, the story's really interesting, and then at the end, Crest or something comes up, and everyone goes, oh, like. I've never been at a show where the logo appearance at the end created such a kerfuffle.
Really?
Yeah. Like people, it's almost like they formed discussion groups. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh.
Like, what does this have to do with Crest? What, blah, blah, blah. Like, so a little anger and a little like, oh, this makes perfect sense now. A little bit of that, but it's more storytelling and a logo.
Was there any instances of celebrity endorsement and that kind of stuff?
Well, the one that comes to mind, there is one with Robert De Niro. And hang on, am I going to be able to find? It was for was it Uber?
Oh, the one with Uber is Brian Cox. I've seen that.
No, this was like an actual Robert De Niro as himself in an Uber ad. I think it was Uber. That's the problem.
Well,
the next day you've seen 400 ads and you're trying to remember, but it's Robert De Niro on a set, and a kid sits down next to him. A guy working on the set, and he's like, do you like going to places, Robert De Niro? And he's all nervous, and Robert De Niro goes like, yeah, I like going to places. It's like, do you ever eat something? He goes, yeah, I like to eat something. And then you see the two of them strike up this friendship on the basis of they like to eat and go places. And so that's the whole thing. The reason, yeah.
All right.
Uber Eats?
Yeah,
Uber Eats. Yeah.
I haven't seen that one yet. That's the thing. You'll never see these in the wild, as it were. You only ever see these at the screenings.
But why? And at the end of the screenings, a student said to me, or student Easton said, he goes, I always just click skip ad on YouTube, but these are really good. And I said, well, that's the point. The point is that 90% of this stuff we see is crap. Why can't it be good? Like, why can't it be like this reel that we see? And the reel, some of the stuff is as usual. Some of it tugs on the heartstrings. Other stuff is hilarious. There's a good Progressive Insurance, so like 3 or 4 of those ads where the premise is when you buy a house, you become your parents. And so they have this super square guy explaining the internet. People have just bought a house and stuff, and it's just so funny and so well executed. You're like, that's Progressive Insurance. Like, if it's possible for Progressive Insurance to do a cute little ad campaign with, and these are probably 15-second spots, like, Anybody should be able to do something creative and not just give us all the same bullshit we've seen 10,000 times.
Well, it's a matter of money and time, right? And that's what
Yep.
that's the differences between these things. And the problem is that this great advertising is this amazingly produced stuff is mixed in with all the horrible stuff that we see that some guy put together in his basement with a PowerPoint. Like it's like there's the differences are so great when it comes to like just even on YouTube, just with the difference in ads you see. Anybody can post an ad there, so there's a lot of really crappy ones, as we've talked about before in this podcast. And so yeah, we skip the ad. We don't ever like trying to think of where like I've been using my Netflix, my advertising supported Netflix just fine, no problems. I don't mind that. I see ads on there. Same with my Disney Plus, there's ads on there. Almost all the streaming services I have now, even Prime has ads. So I'm used to seeing ads in all those places.
Yeah.
I can't skip any of them. I find myself going for the remote sometimes when I'm on one of those platforms because I'm used to skipping ads, but it's just because all the horrible advertising makes it so much worse for the good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so. But it's getting harder to tell. Like content is content, and sponsored content. And I always say this started with the Lego movie, where it's a 1.5 hour commercial for Lego that happens to be entertaining. And I still remember Grant Park at that point. It wasn't Canadian Tire. I can't remember what the store was there. Everybody coming out of the Lego movie and marching over to the toy section to buy the toy. And you go, that's how it should work. Now that you've been entertained by the film, walk over to the toy store and go buy some more Lego. That's a good day for Lego when that happens. When people are paid.
I do the Lego movie part 2 and then all the other Lego stuff they've come out with. Apparently that Pharrell movie is pretty good.
The which?
The Pharrell movie. Pharrell Williams did his biopic as a Lego movie.
What?
You didn't hear this?
No.
Yeah. The musician Pharrell. He made his life, he put his life story on the screen, but it's done in Lego. It looks like a Lego movie.
He sings that Terrible Happiness song, right?
Yeah. Very happy song. What are you talking about?
That song fills me with rage and disappointment.
That is the opposite effect.
I know.
It's intended.
I know it is. And yet there it is. When I hear it, I get super angry and I fly into uncontrollable rages when I hear that. I think he's planted that into the song subliminally, actually.
So do you think now local advertising is never this good, right? We never see locally produced. Now, I don't watch local TV anymore, so I don't know who's getting local TV ads produced, but it would, I guess they would also be on YouTube as well. They would have to be on YouTube.
I have to say that the inventory of local advertising on TV has dropped. Like if you watch the CTV evening news, like I'm not even talking about the national news, I'm talking about local, CTV local news. That used to be where you'd see all the locally produced spots that they would produce or they do them themselves or whatever. But now it's almost all promos for CTV, and that's how you know.
Is it really?
Oh yeah. I think the ad inventory is pretty low.
Yeah. That's how you know the inventory is low. Is when it's advertising for other stuff, other shows on the network, other late news or new. Oh no, they cut the new news. Never mind.
I used to see some, and also on then A channel, now City TV. There used to be some creative executions. I remember where they would make something funny or local out of very low budgets.
The Sticky Fingers ad with a dog. There was an ad, a local ad, so-and-so Sticky Fingers is the name of the restaurant. I think it's in Portugal Prairie, Manitoba. And the whole premise of the ad was this dog, I guess it was the owner's dog, this cute little dog that was like talking about it. It was funny. It was very low budget, but it worked really well. And that was one of my favorite local ads for a long time. Joe's Sticky Fingers, somebody's Sticky Fingers. Not a great name for a restaurant, but a pretty good ad.
Interesting. I remember one, and I can't remember what it was for, but it was a little boy hula hooping, and they just kept the camera on the boy hula hooping, and it was funny. It was a funny, like you're watching because there's like, is this kid he's gonna be able to hula hoop for the whole commercial? So you sort of watch it. It was for furniture store or something. I can't remember. It was just a classic make them watch execution, but it was cute. You put a cute kid in there doing the hula hoop. I can't think of another local ad.
Well, I can think of local ones that are made by agencies, not stations, right?
Right.
So when you think about advertising, like it used to be, a good chunk of it was made, yes, and the ones on CTV on the news would be all locally produced by CTV,
right?
Like from their clients. But these days, of course, we have advertising agencies producing campaigns here. The one I'm thinking of is the one where the kids shame the grown-ups into recycling. That is it's an ad. It's a TV or video ad. I see it on YouTube all the time. There's a couple different versions of it. I see billboards. Please, it says with
Oh, yeah,
a
yeah.
plastic bottle. By itself, that doesn't work. I'm sorry, that doesn't work.
You-
You don't see the other ads. That billboard makes no sense to you.
You still can't see their effing logo in the corner of the billboard. The billboard is at the top of a friggin' building in Osborne Village. The building obscures the logo.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like I can't, and I know the agency that makes those.
Yeah.
And a couple times I've said something about like you should make it so that's visible. Do the chair test, which is the classic. Stand on a chair and see if you can see your creative. If it's not visible, you've not done your job.
Yeah.
So it's weird to me that an agency would not even understand the media for which it's creating the work.
It's weird to me that we have more than one organization that is dedicated to advertising about recycling. We have two. There's the Recycle Everywhere, and then there's the Manitoba Multi-Steward whatever. It's two different organizations that both put out advertisements to encourage us to recycle, which I do anyway. It's kind of like a no-brainer at this point, but I guess they still have an issue with people not recycling.
Well, recycling the wrong stuff, like my neighbors. Like just the wrong stuff is in the recycle bin.
Oh, yeah, I see that all the time. It just leads me to believe they should be just sorting it out at the depot and not letting us worry. Anyway.
Just put a funnel from my house directly to the depot. Yeah, and I'll put the stuff on the treadmill.
Okay, so that is an awareness campaign paid for by some organizations, probably paid for by like Coca-Cola environmental levy fees or something like that, right? You know those fees you pay when you buy a bottle of soda? That's probably what that pays for. But as far as businesses advertising their products, TV advertising or video advertising, as I guess this is known, is really not as an option for them unless they go with the easy PowerPoint style video that they can make themselves, right? Yeah. They can't hire a local agency or TV station to do this kind of stuff for them.
Right, that's right.
It's out of reach.
Well, budgetarily, yes, but I mean, it doesn't mean in advertising, concept is king. That's on the test.
Okay.
Should any of our students ever listen to this, Lord help them, but that is on the test. In advertising, old saying, in advertising, concept is blank, king. They're going to write key, and it's going to make me crazy. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. But nonetheless, I'm still fighting the good fight. But a good concept can withstand a low budget.
Yeah.
A good concept is a good concept. And I saw a lot of that at the ads last night where not everything here is $1 billion ad. There's some good ads on a budget that make the point in just a very entertaining and interesting way because the idea is so good.
Mm-hmm.
And so once again, it's up to the creatives to come up with that concept, to make the thing come to life and not just to provide a list of benefits.
I can think of a good example of that actually it was for Hot 103 back in the day for a radio station here in Winnipeg. And by the way, we talked about our new radio station Alt 94.3, which is also now being advertised on buses again. If you'll notice, those buses are going around again, but they're not the wraps. It's a cheaper option. If you'll notice, the Alt buses, 94.3, just have the banners, and that's it. No wrap. There's no sticker on the window. There's no big thing. It's not the whole bus. They're just not spending as much money on this. But I mean,
bus wraps are so expensive.
Well, it's expensive to produce, yes, and so
they're a terrible climate.
The Pattison owns the space, so the same company that owns the radio station owns the advertising space.
Yeah, so
they're not paying themselves for that advertising space, but they do have to pay for the production of the ads.
Right.
So that is why they've gone with no wrap. Anyway, but going back to like when they used to actually put effort into advertising radio stations, Hot 103 had a couple really good campaigns, and it was a concept. So they have 3 personalities. Like most morning shows, they have 2 guys and a girl. That's a very standard setup. So they have Ace Burpee, Lloyd the intern, and Chrissy Troy. And so what they did in a couple different ways, they just kind of made them look like popular pop culture properties. Like they did one that was a Twilight takeoff. So it had like Ace and Chrissy looking at each other lovingly, and then LTI's off in the background looking like, oh my god, like he's the Wolfman guy from Twilight. They had him look like Twilight. Another year they made them look like the Jersey Shore crew. So it was just like this, just those 3 personalities made to look up like something else. And it was very cool and effective, and it conveyed the personality of the show really, really well. And it had nothing to do with the music. And that's what I love about it, is that radio, like for me, the lowest hanging fruit for radio advertising is just advertise the kind of music you play. Like that's just the most boring thing you can do. This was a great campaign. It really showed off the personality of the hosts. They did another one too. They did Twilight, and there was a third one. I can't remember what it was, but it was really, really good. And then again, that kind of stuff, that was an out of home. It was a billboard, and it was something that I think was really effective. Now they don't ever see that kind of stuff anymore.
No, it's an interesting time, but if everybody knows that if you advertise on Meta, you get Meta's self-service ad platform. It solves a lot of problems and it's pretty cheap and you can do it yourself, but it leads to there being a decline in quality oftentimes. But, it is an owned media revolution, the world we live in right now, in that if you build a fan base, then you just post your stuff there. They follow you, they see it. I always point out, the Grove has a weekly special menu and it comes out every Friday. If you know it's coming out, you go to the Facebook page and you check it because you want to see what's on the menu, what's on the specials this week. The specials are always good. So you go and check it because that establishment, the habit forming behavior has been set and you like that restaurant, you live in the neighborhood. That's a roadmap for a cheap way to share your message. And so dedicating all of your marketing efforts to building that engaged fan base can save you lots of money in the long term. I'm surprised we don't see more appeals for that. We'll give you 10% off the menu if you show us you're following us on these 3 sites or something.
Yeah.
Or I'm just surprised we don't if influencers get 10% off or whatever, who cares? For the average person going in there, you can save on your advertising budget by using just your own media channels. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Well, and I guess I think it's just ignorance or people not wanting to engage in that stuff is why they don't do that. I've actually seen some really good examples of influencers at a local kind of Canadian level doing some really good work as far as promoting local businesses. One of our former students, actually, her name is Kim. She lives in Kenora, and her YouTube channel or her TikTok is called Kim Does. And basically it's her going around to all these different places and she promotes them. She's like, oh, I'm here at this business doing this. And she talks about stuff. She put together a really good one it was for a convenience store. It was just a regular mom and pop store. And she took a clip from Half Baked, the movie Half Baked, about stoners. And there's that part where the guy's telling the other guy what to get for snacks. And he's going on this big long list of things like this and Funyuns, man. And he goes on this thing. And so what Kim did was she went to the store. She found every single item on the list and she shows them, boom, 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 boom. And she gets them all. And she comes out of this and she lip syncs to it. But it was all in promotion of this business. It was really good. It was great content, great advertising content for this business. Another one that does it quite a bit, Leroy and Leroy, who's a friend of mine on TikTok. And he will go he's done it here at Winnipeg. He's in Moose Jaws where he lives. So he does it a lot in Saskatchewan. And he will do a little, I think he did one for a Pet Value the other day. And he basically just kind of goofs around with the pets and talks to the pets and does his little shtick with them. And it's funny. And then he makes his video and posts it. And it's a great content for that business as well. So I think that's where advertising is going. It's get somebody who's got a following on social media to make a video about us. And then people will see it that way. That's where
Who's Kim? Who was our student?
I can't remember.
Well, you can't say that. Oh, okay.
She was working a radio.
Oh yeah.
She had a morning show in the radio in Kenora and then was laid off. People in radio have been, and so now she's kind of, I don't know what she does for work, but she is basically making these little videos about places around Kenora. And again, this Leroy guy does it for other places. What did he do? He did a Winnipeg business recently where he had it was a big trailer, a big trailer they made or whatever they showed off. So it's very, very cool stuff. And so that kind of stuff is just going to get more and more prevalent. Again, taking that business away from CTV and those companies.
I think once again, this is showing us, and I think the American election is also a testament to this, and that is the erosion, once again, the niche media market, the YouTubers, the TikTokers, the micro sharing, if you like, of media has taken over from, and CNN's ratings are lower than they've ever been, apparently.
Yeah, you said, yeah. What is that? Where'd you hear that?
The New York Times has an article on it. Although Fox News increased a little, which is, I don't know if it's like, the winner wins the election and then the media outlet that matches their views gets a bit of a bounce, maybe something like that. But New York Times had an article about it. But I actually think, I think this is a turning point in terms of how people are getting the media, because I think we are like the aging out of the cable generation.
Yeah.
I'm the last group. I'm in the last group, I think.
You really are.
Yeah. And even in class today, I said, I told you on the way here that I said, hey, there's this show Upright on CBC Gem. It's an Australian show. And actually the main actor is a guy who's in the Sydney Opera House ad called,
cool.
It's an ironic ad called Play It Safe, in which you shouldn't play it safe is the lesson.
Yeah.
And he's singing and dancing. I was like, holy crap, this guy's great. So he's like, I don't know his name. I wish I did, but he's an Australian comedian and singer, as it turns out. And the young girl from House of the Dragons is on this show, Upright. The two of them. And I was like, this class will be interested in this. I go, it's free on CBC Gem. And they burst out laughing. And I said, why? Because old people like CBC Gem. And they went, yeah, that's why. And I said, listen, you ageist bastard.
That's a problem for CBC if they think that. I wouldn't have assumed that kids would think that about CBC.
No, I know that there's just a sense that even having cable channels is like,
But that's not having cable channels. That's having
no.
It's an app just like everything else.
It's having an app, but CBC in their minds, I think, harks to a Sunday afternoon at grandma gardening or something.
Well, I can tell you this, CBC Gem, I have on more than one occasion chosen not to watch it because it signs me out every freaking I hate that.
It signs you. It says you haven't been here enough. And meanwhile, I was there yesterday. Like I got to stream all day long.
Cannot sign because a pain in the ass to sign.
It is a pain in the ass.
So that I hate that. And the other thing are the ads are too much. I have literally turned it off because of the ads, because I'm not sitting through 6 advertisements. You're the only streaming service that makes us sit through that many. Nobody else does.
Repetition and poorly inserted ads.
But it's also like there's still like 6 ads per break no matter what.
Yeah.
That's old school thinking. That's like cable TV thinking. We're going to create a 3-minute ad break here so people are going to sit through it. No way. They're not going to do that.
I only watch stuff there that I cannot watch anywhere else, that's highly rated and I can't watch anywhere else.
Yep.
There's a British show called Ladhood that I saw there, and once again, fantastic show. But it will never get traction in that format. I'm surprised they have great quality stuff sitting there. It's kind of weird that they're like, if you know that it's only Canadians that can sign up and watch it for free anyway, so you know we're in Canada if we're watching it. CBC is funded by taxpayers. Like, I don't understand why we need heavy
it's the only
6 ads repeated.
They can only sell these digital ad spaces.
But surely the advertisers buying it understand that they're an irritation here. They're not helping themselves.
Don't call me Shirley.
Surely they understand. Do you like watching films with gladiators in them, Billy? But I'm surprised I haven't heard that joke more. That's from Airplane.
Yeah.
But Gladiator 2 came out. And all I can think of is the pilot from Airplane going, Billy, do you like films with gladiators?
Oh, it's funny. All right, let's finish up with some recommendations. What do you have this week?
You go first.
I actually started watching a show last week on Disney Plus, and it's something my girlfriend and I are watching together, so she cannot watch it. My girlfriend is a binger, and I'm not, so she always wants to binge stuff. I had to leave my Mrs. Brown's Boys box set with her so she could binge episodes of Mrs. Brown's Boys. But we started watching a show together called Rivals. Rivals is on Disney Plus. I don't know where it originated from. It might be a British show. But it stars David Tennant and a number of other British actors that I can't remember now. But there's like a bunch of recognizable faces in there. And it's a really interesting now. Apparently, this is based on a book series by a very famous author named Jilly Cooper, who's written a bunch of these books on different topics, but it's all about the same characters, and they all kind of interact. And it's these rich, kind of like, reminds me a lot of Dallas or Falcon Crest, like a lot of rich people and their world, and they really don't know what it's like for the poor people. But this is about the world of British television and franchise rights. It's a really interesting thing. So David Tennant is the head of like a British television company that is trying to, make money in this world. And they have like this weird thing where they are granted franchise rights for 5 years at a time. But then every 5 years is up for renewal, and another company can come in and steal away their franchise rights and then start broadcasting on their channel. So it's like really like it could be all taken away. So David Tennant is basically kind of trying to put together some good programming. He headhunts a guy from the BBC, a really good talk show host from the BBC who comes to this thing. So he's a new guy. He's got to learn everything. And it's just about all these different things they have to do to kind of try to get people to watch their TV show. It's really good. I really liked it.
That's funny. As you were describing it, I went, why is this? And I watched the first half hour of the first episode of that.
Okay.
And I forgot about it. I forgot all about it.
It's
one of those nights where you're like, it's almost time to go to bed. We'll watch the first half hour of this thing. And so you watch it and you go to sleep. You forget all about it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
It made me actually,
it
also made me watch a documentary about the Concorde, because the first scene takes place in the Concorde. And and I was wondering about, like, why did that fail? Why did the Concorde?
Because it blew up.
Well, it did blow up, but there was the real reason. I watched this short documentary about it. It was really 9/11, and it kind of killed international travel for a while. And the Concorde could only fly over the ocean. Nobody wanted it flying over their in their backyard with that sonic boom,
right?
Because the sonic boom like travels with it, and it just goes across everything that it flies over. It gets a sonic boom all the way to its destination. Nobody wanted that in their backyard, so it wasn't allowed to fly anywhere except for over the ocean.
Yeah, but New York to Paris and
It's good.
Yeah,
it's. I think so. Other companies are working on another supersonic jet, but just not as big. I think they're going to do for small.
Phil Collins flew on the Concorde to get from Live Aid at Wembley to Live Aid in Philly, and that was like the part of the big deal. It was like he's coming on the Concorde.
Going to the other.
Yeah.
It's in the same. Yeah. Well, the documentary, they're talking about how businessmen were basically using it as a commuter tool. They're living in New York and commuting to London and stuff. It's just crazy. Anyway. Rivals as a very interesting opening scene in the Concorde, but also it's a very good show, and you should check it out.
Excellent. I am going to recommend a Netflix documentary called Buy Now, B-U-Y.
I've seen this. I have not clicked on it yet, though, but it looks interesting to me.
Well, I'm recommending it. Is it the world's greatest documentary? Probably not, but it is subject-wise. We're recording this the day before Black Friday, where people lose their minds shopping, and then Cyber Monday comes after that, and then in Canada, Boxing Day. I almost forget about Boxing Day.
It's almost like an afterthought now.
Yeah, and it is about thinking about what you buy is kind of what Buy Now is about, and it does make you think about what you buy watching that show, including like we've created giant trash piles through the need for cheap T-shirts and and disposable T-shirts, for instance, and so I have a class that I do every year called Black Friday and the Dismal Science. And the dismal science is economics, because what's bad for you is good for the economy. And one of the reasons that Americans voted the way they did was because of the economy. But I didn't hear anybody talking about this, which is the flu is good for the economy because everybody rushes out to buy flu remedies. Like lots of bad things are good for the economy. Economy isn't a measure of happiness necessarily, but I think people think it is.
Well, because usually a good economy means good jobs and people get paid well.
Well, there's good, right, and so that's how people think of it, but they don't think of the other reality, which is some of the divorce is good for the economy. It's bad for everybody. It's bad for the people getting divorced.
Yeah.
Bad for the kids. Bad for everyone. Everything all around. But great for the economy because you're doubling the expenses.
Yeah, you're paying. Oh yeah, right. We're each getting a house now instead of just one.
Right. And the need for more cars, the need for et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So Buy Now just makes you think more about what you purchase. So I'll recommend that.
I'll check it out. All right. That's going to do it for this episode of the Media Nerds. I'm Dan Badabonker.
I'm Kenton Larson. Don't let the door hit you on the ass.